Hi everyone, I'm Cerise.
I'm Joe, and today we want to talk about something we've mentioned in previous videos, which is the dark mind. What exactly is it, and how do we start working with it if it is so dark and bad and evil? Shouldn't it be something that we keep locked up in a box, never to reveal and never to let out because of what might be exposed if we do? So this is the dimension that we're going to look at today, which is how do we look at and work with our own dark minds? It's the dark, deep, nasty, bad, evil stuff that we don't dare ever expose, especially to ourselves. So, Cerise, do you have any opening perspectives on that?
Well, I think that what's important to establish this point is to make it clear that this is a part of every one of us, all of us. It's not like some people are more or less evil than others. We all have this darkness inside of us. And as with anything, the best way to deal with it and to let it go and to change it is to see it for what it is, meaning that yes, it may be a part of you, but it doesn't define who you are. You define who you are. So see that part of yourself for what it is, and in seeing it for what it is, you start to understand it. And in understanding it, you give yourself the power to change it.
Yeah. So to open this up, I will share some of my own dark mind stuff and work with it live here on video. So something that I was looking at was during my childhood, I had a very conflictual relationship with my mother, and there were a lot of things like physical abuse, verbal abuse that was consistent throughout my growing up. This led to me developing a lot of internal thoughts, you could say conversations I would have with myself, where I would say, she's just such a bad person. Why is she doing this to me? Why do I have to live with her? I can't stand this anymore. I just want this to end. I can't handle it. Why is she always like this? And it was a safe space for me to go into that expression because I couldn't say it out loud. I would get into even more trouble with my mother if I did that. So that became a safe space. It was a secret spot for me to express all of that stuff that I couldn't find an outlet for in the world. And at that point in my life, I didn't have the tools of self-writing, self-investigation, self-honesty, self-forgiveness to discharge all of that stuff. So where did it go? It went into this little spot inside myself that became part of my dark mind. It's that part of myself that I can hide away and never take responsibility for, really. So what happened was that over the years, these dark little thoughts kept accumulating, and in a way festering and building in that little dark room where I don't let anyone go, especially myself. And those thoughts start to become more and more nasty. They start off as, I just want this experience to end. I don't understand why she's making me feel this way. I don't understand what I did to deserve this. And that starts turning into, I wish one day she would see what she's doing to me. I wish someday something would happen to her so she'll learn. I wish something would make her stop. I will one day make her stop. I will one day harm her. How would she like it if I did this to her? And it begins to grow darker and darker. Why? Because no accountability is taken in that safe space. No taking it back to myself. No responsibility is ever brought into that line of thinking, and it becomes things like murderous, vengeful, violent thoughts.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is that when you keep it inside of you and you don't ever let anyone know, it's kind of like this, if no one ever finds out the real stuff that goes on inside of me, it'll be fine. I don't have to own up to it.
Mm.
I don't have to show who I really am, and people don't have to see me for who I really am.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people can develop these dark minds to such an extent where the thoughts start to become violent and evil. Thoughts like sexual abuse, rape, murder, violence. And it's unfortunate that people judge those thoughts, judge those pictures that come up in our heads as reflections of who we are, instead of seeing it as a consequence of a whole series of thoughts, a whole series of moments where we participated in that dark mind, in that secret space in ourselves, where we were hiding things away because we didn't have particular tools to deal with the situation in our lives, because we didn't understand a particular thing that was happening to us, or we didn't understand how we were able to work with a certain experience coming up, and so we suppress it. And that stuff stays suppressed, and it stays accumulating in the background into these darker, more, in some ways, perverse, warped versions of those initial things. So for anyone out there who is experiencing these points of the dark mind and judging the thoughts you sometimes have, be they violent or bad or apparently evil, look behind the picture and get in touch again with the story that you are actually telling yourself, because it's not always about you wanting to harm another person or because you're a bad person. It's more about what was it about that other person that made you feel so powerless, so vulnerable, so hurt, that it seemed like the only option for you was to do unto them what you felt you couldn't stop them from doing unto you. And those are the things that will allow you to change your relationship to what created those dark thoughts. And you'll find, as I did, as I changed my relationship and my growing up in my history with my own mother, my own dark thoughts started to drop away as I let go of my own sense of powerlessness, victimization, wanting to do something to her in order to protect myself. And as that changed, the dark mind started to reveal that it wasn't actually dark or evil. It was just the extent to which I hid from myself.
What's important to remember when you're working with the dark mind is not to take it personally, not to become stuck in the experience and in the feeling that you're such a horrible, terrible person for having these thoughts. The morality and the judgments of this is bad, this is evil, those things need to drop for you to be able to see what's behind it. If you are holding on to those judgments of yourself, then it's essentially a cycle of self-sabotage that gets triggered, because instead of dealing with the thoughts that are coming up, you're spending all of your time judging them, judging yourself, feeling like such a terrible, horrible person.
And having to manage keeping it all suppressed, because it takes a whole lot of effort, guys, to maintain that. It's like you have to put up a face all the time and pretend to be a certain way, but in the back of your mind you're always going to know, but I have these thoughts, I have these moments, these tendencies where I do have violent, nasty things that I don't ever want other people to find out because I would be so ashamed. But yet we continue to allow it within ourselves despite our own shame. So it's that element of having to get real and get self-honest. But within that, you find that it's quite empowering, because you'll realize it's not actually who you are, in fact. And we spend so much time afraid of these thoughts and what they mean about us. And we get so separated from who we are within those thoughts that they kind of become monsters inside us that we think we can't ever get real with, can't ever expose, can't ever let out of the box for what harm it might do to others. And yet we fail to see what harm it's already doing to ourselves in the so many dimensions of our lives and who we are.
So bottom line is that the more willing and open you are to see all of yourself as you are and see all your thoughts for what they are, you empower yourself to change it. And from there, you can recreate yourself into a version of yourself that doesn't have dark thoughts at all. And I think that's something that all of us want for ourselves.
And for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of creating a better world by starting with yourself. That's one of the models you're going to hear from us time and time again, how changing yourself is the first step to changing the world. And if we want a world that isn't so dark and oppressive and heavy, then start with the dark mind in you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and if you like what we're doing and want to hear more, be our patrons on Patreon and support us to keep doing what we're doing. We look forward to bringing you more. If you have specific topics or questions you'd like us to have a look at, you know where to find us.
Bye.